Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All in All with Alex. I'm your host, of course, Alex. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. John Novello. Am I saying that right?
You got it correct.
All right. Nice to have you on the show today.
For me to be a guest on your show. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. No problem at all. No problem at all. So today we're gonna focus on designing your perfect life. Mr. John Novello's journey from Grammy winner to spiritual guy. Um, so can you let's start off with this. Can you share the moment you first became aware of the concept of the invisible architect?
Well, believe it or not, when I was 3 years old, I heard a voice inside my head. Now, I wasn't, of course, aware conceptually that this was, God or the invisible architect, which is the name it wanted me to use.
Mhm.
I don't like to personify God as a person. To me, that limits God. To me, God is a quantum intelligent energy field that permeates the universe and permeates us. But at 3 years old, of course, I didn't know anything. I
Right.
just heard a voice in my head because the voice in my head said, point to the TV. And on the TV, there was somebody playing a musical keyboard, an accordion. And little did I know that music was going to be a big part of my life. So at 3 years old, I heard this voice and I just pointed to it. My parents said, oh, look it, he's pointing to the TV. Maybe he wants to take lessons. And then a few years later, I started taking lessons, and that launched eventually my whole music career. And from then on in, I constantly kept hearing and interacting with this voice that I didn't understand, but I just figured everybody had that voice. And it served me well my whole life, helped me make decisions, orchestrated things for me. And eventually, after I had become quite successful, about 4 years ago, I woke up one day. This is when I was living in LA. I live in Nashville now. And the voice said, hey, you need to write a book and pay it forward. And I was kind of going, well, what do you mean? I'm a musician. I'm a jazz guy. What are you talking about? I've written books before, but they were in the music world. And well, you've been interacting with me very successfully for many, many, many years, and I want you to pay it forward and share your interactions with me to other people. And I realized that it wanted me to write a book because I never thought, like you said in the beginning, how did this jazz guy turn into sort of a spiritual one-on-one mentor and guru? That was not something I ever thought about. So next thing you know, I'm writing this book, and it's almost like being channeled. I was just like, okay, that's what you want me to do, and it was pretty crazy. And then when I got done with it, I released it, and in a few days, it became an Amazon #1 best-selling book in the area of metaphysics. Go figure. I'm like, here I am, a jazz guy, and this is what's occurring. And next thing you know, and I thought I was done. Okay, I'll go back to my music. And then all of a sudden, I have people from all over the world start to contact me by email saying, hey, we really dig your book. Uh, do you do any coaching or mentoring? We want to achieve this perfect life you're talking about. And what do you mean by a perfect life? And uh, while I was writing the book, I didn't know what to even call it. I was just going to call it How to Create a Better Life. And the architect said no. And it gave me the name Invisible Architect because it didn't want to be associated with any religion
Mhm.
as much as, like I said, this quantum intelligent energy. And so it gave me the name Invisible Architect, which I like because invisible God is an architect. Even the word architect is mentioned in the Bible, is a designer of things. So the Invisible Architect, How to Design a Better Life, was my original title. But then it didn't like that. It says, no, God is all knowing, all perfect, all everything. So you need to say perfect life. And I go, wow, that's a bit steep, don't you think? I think perfect life. I don't know if I want to do that, but it was very adamant. Like I said, this voice is very strong and still is. So I
Right.
changed the title to The Invisible Architect, How to Design Your Perfect Life from Within, because our power is within, as within, as without. Our thoughts create our reality. And that's how this whole thing started, and it just took off all by itself.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So how would how about this? So how does the invisible architect differ from other uh self-help philosophies?
Well, basically, uh, most of self help comes under the category of positive thinking, which is good, and affirmations: I am well, I am healthy, I am successful, law of attraction kind of stuff. But a lot of people that try that, remember the movie The Secret came out and it was a big deal. It was like new age stuff, but people try it and stuff doesn't work. And I had already been doing that stuff for 50, 60 years and applying it to my life, which is why the architect one day contacted me and says, "Hey, you know how to work with me. And you already are an author because I've written many music books. So I have that kind of logical, didactic teaching type of mind." So I kind of started analyzing, well, what was I doing? How was I interacting with this intelligent energy? And how was I getting results? So to me, my approach, although based off of many other things from the Bible on to other authors, uh, the two most important things when you're trying to create your life and design your life and achieve it is to recognize that you, we, me and you are not the power. The power is the invisible architect. That's that intelligent energy. We are the distributor of the power. So once you separate that and understand that, then all you have to do is learn how to communicate with this energy and let it do the heavy lifting because it's way more powerful than any of us. Right. And so I figured out how to do that, and I call that spiritual mechanics. So in my book, I explain the spiritual mechanics of how to contact, interact with, believe in, and have total certainty about this power, and how to invite this power into our lives and how to interact with it in order to create uh, a more perfect life. So once the book came out and people started contacting me, I realized that my job was not over. Uh, the architect wanted me to start doing one-on-one mentoring with people because people can read a book, but as we all know, reading a book is one thing, or listening to an audiobook. But then you have to duplicate what's there and understand it. And lastly, and most important, is you need to apply it to your life. And if you don't have accountability and expert advice, it's very difficult. And I was doing a lot of research. Almost every successful person has a mentor. I mean, whether they've consciously hired a mentor or they just have somebody they look up to. A mentor is somebody that's an expert in an area and motivates and helps people in a particular area. So I realized that it was my duty and responsibility now that I wrote this book to help mentor people through the book and apply it to their lives in order to create a perfect life. So a few years ago, I started doing the one-on-one mentoring and I get amazing results. So even though I love music and I love entertaining people and I've been very successful, music only goes so far. Music inspires people. It raises their emotional level. It makes them feel good. But at the end of the day, they still got to go back to their life, right? uh, and so what I'm doing now is a little bit more satisfying to me because I'm showing the people the fundamentals of how to interact with this power and then allow this a power into their life so they can create a more perfect life. And that is very, very rewarding. But it has to be done one-on-one. I can't do it in a group because everybody's different.
Right, right. Okay, so what are some common misconceptions that people have about manifesting their desires?
Well, they actually just think positively that if they just go like, especially in the field of the law of attraction, I am healthy or I am wealthy. And They figure that's enough. Well, if you don't understand the fundamentals of manifestation, which is what I just said, you have to figure out how to interact with this energy, this intelligent energy, because I is a narcissistic point of view. I am wealthy. Well, okay, that means I'm going to just be wealthy and do things to make me wealthy. Well, that's better than saying I'm poor, but without the power, without hooking up to the power, you don't have the firepower. It's like if you were in the field during World War II and you were on the enemy front lines and you had a command center behind you that had jets and airplanes and everything to help you, and the enemy was coming over the hill, would you just say, I'm strong, I'm Tarzan, I'm going to beat all the enemy as they come over the hill? Or would you be smart enough to go, wait a minute, I have command central. Let me get on my walkie-talkie. Let me relay the coordinates and let me order some napalm and some jets to help me out. Well, that's like what the invisible architect is. The architect is the power. So the most amazing confusion that goes on with people is they don't separate that. They think that they're trying to knock their heads against the wall and create a better life. The architect is creating your life. You just have to invite it into your life because it gave us free will. So it's not going to bypass us. So we have to be able to interact with it and invite it into our life and know how to communicate with it, because it's different than just praying. It isn't just like getting on one's knees and going, oh God, please help me pay my bill. Well, that's sort of a victim, I can't do anything, please help me, as compared to knowing how to interact with this energy and have it help you create a better life. And that's the difference in what my method is. And I don't have any failures when I work with somebody one-on-one. Once I go through the fundamentals of the book and they understand the spiritual mechanics of how to interact with God or the invisible architect or whatever their beliefs are in that area, they're amazed at the miraculous things that start happening.
Right. So can you give just like a brief gist of how your one-on-one perfect life mentor program works and like what people can expect from it, I guess?
Right. When they first sign up with me, the first thing that happens is I go through part 1 and part 2 of my methodology. Part 1 is that we have to achieve 7 milestones together. One is to understand, because I even work with atheists that don't even believe in God. And obviously I gotta handle that, because how can you invite God into your life if you don't believe in him? So step 1 is understanding who and what the invisible architect is. And then step 2 is understanding that everything is energy. Our thoughts are energy. And step 3 is we got to understand that we have to believe that the architect can do anything, but it gave us free will. So I go through these 7 milestones by going through each chapter in my book. They have to get my book, whether it's ebook or paperback or audio. And I one-on-one go through each chapter, because it's one thing to read a book or listen to it, and it's another thing to have the author himself actually coach you, go through each chapter and make sure you understand the fundamentals. Once we go through the whole book, which takes probably about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on a person's study habits and their schedule. Once they go through the whole book with me, they have an amazing understanding of what the architect is, how to interact with it. They have fully belief in its existence. And now we go into part 2 of the one-on-one, which is how do we manifest our perfect life? And there's a particular formula that I call the be, do, have manifestation formula. Most people have it backwards. They think it's have, do, be, meaning, wow, if I had a lot of money and I had a lot of connections, I'd be able to do A, B, and C, and then I could be and become this. That seems normal, right? But it's actually all successful people do it in reverse. It's be, do, have. You have to be what you want to have in your mind. Athletes call this being in the zone. or envisioning the wishful result.
Mm-hmm.
This has been around a long time, but the way I explain it is a little bit more clear. So once you understand that how to control your thoughts and be what you're trying to achieve, then the do and don'ts start happening, and the architect starts working with you, and then you produce your have. So when I meet with people, I tell them to write down all the situations in their life that aren't ideal. They could be little. It could be I'm a procrastinator, or I have trouble with relationships, or I get migraine headaches all the time, or I'm broke, or my career is struggling. It doesn't matter what it is to the invisible architect. Once you know how to identify and interact with the architect and realize that it's be, do, have, I show you how to control your thoughts and beliefs and hook up with the architect. And that's when the magic starts happening. So, part one, we go through the whole book together, which takes about 6 weeks to go through each chapter. And it's way different when you have an expert mentor one on one going through it. And then you have accountability. And then step two is now that all those areas of your life that aren't ideal, we're going to start going through them together and apply this be, do, have manifestation formula. And then I show you how to control your thoughts, because in the end, thoughts create reality.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. I would agree. I would agree. So, um, do you have maybe a success story that kind of just sticks in your brain of someone who has applied your principles?
Well, if they go to, I'll just, we can at the end of this, you can put this down when you do the link. But if people go to my mentor site, which I'll explain one in a minute, but if they go to go.johnnovelloauthor.com/register, so it's go dot my name John Novello author.com/register. They go to that site, they'll see all kinds of success stories, and they can read all of them, and then they can put their name and info in, and that'll bring them to a 28-minute video, which will explain in detail my mentoring services. And then they can book a free consultation with me. And the consultation is free, and by itself is pretty amazing. But I had this one person, like I said, who was an atheist, and he saw an interview like this, not yours, obviously, but somebody else's. And he got excited for the first time in his life. He said, I think I'm going to hold of this guy, because even though I don't believe in God, I've had people always try to slam God down my throat, and it's never worked. But this guy seems to be a little different, and I feel that he's authentic. So he went to the site, read it, was inspired, put his name and stuff. He booked a free consultation with me. Consultations are about 40 minutes. And he liked my interview, and he liked what I had to say during the consultation. So he signed up, and we started working. And by the time we got about 5 chapters into the book, he texted me one day and he goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe I've been a fake atheist." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, I said I was an atheist, but down deep, I knew there was a God. I knew that this miracle of my body and the universe and everything couldn't be just an accident, but I just doubted it. And I've had people shove religion down my throat. So I decided that I was going to be an atheist. But now that I'm working with you and you're not slamming religion down my throat, you're showing me fundamentals, and you're allowing me to come to my own conclusion. Anyway, he had a big win, and that was only milestone one. Then we got into the actual fundamentals of the book, and this guy's just amazing how he's took to it like a fish in water, and is just creating his better life on a daily basis in a miraculous way. That's just one of many, many things. I like that one because I thought he was going to be a big challenge being an atheist, because most of the people that I talk with actually do believe in some way, shape, or form of God or Jesus or some kind of spiritual entity. So they're a little bit easier to work with initially. But this guy had a big revelation pretty quickly.
Okay. So, what role does what role does creativity play in the process of personal transformation?
Well, creativity is everything. If you think of God, even from a biblical point of view, let there be light, and let's say God created the universe. Well, that's a pretty creative thing to do, right? That's very creative. I'm a composer, so when I write a song, I'm I'm the god of my universe. I I will get at the piano and start playing and writing, and I'm creating musical notes and organizing and arranging it, and I keep creating and carving until that song is done. So creativity is an innate ability that comes from the creator of all, the invisible architect. And we are made in the image and likeness of the creator. So it stands to reason that if the creator created us and the universe and everything in it, and we are made in its image, then as a harmonic of the invisible architect, if the invisible architect is the general and we are the particulars, then we have creative power in our lives as well. So, creativity, which is imagination, you imagine your great life, you go into the future. How would my life be if I didn't have any money problems or any relation problems? And you go into the future and you create your better life in your mind, which is the thought universe, not the physical universe, right? In the thought universe. And it becomes clear and you know how to do that. Then all you have to do is invite the architect into your life because it gave us free will. It's not going to bypass us. And it, along with your desires and creation, start interacting and working together to create the magic. So eventually you have the have, the be, the do, and the have. So creativity is the basic fundamental of life. And we are made in the architect's image. So if we invite it into our life, it's the creator, and we're like mini creators, and we co-create together. And that's what spiritual mechanics mean, working together with the creator of all, the invisible architect.
Okay. So, what advice do you have for someone who feels stuck or unfulfilled in their current life situation?
Well, the first thing they want to realize is if you look at the be, do, have formula, have is defined as your current situation. So instead of putting your attention on how come I don't have any money and I need to make the rent, or I'm having trouble with relationships or keeping a job, or I'm always getting sick, that's putting your attention on have, right? That's the physical universe manifestation. So instead of working backwards, have, do, be, we must realize that we are somewhat co-creating, and it's hard for people to get this initially. I have to work with them. They don't want to believe that, well, I don't want to be poor. What are you talking about? I'm not making myself poor. They don't realize that there is responsibility for the current situation they are in. And until they take responsibility by realizing that, they're not going to change it. So that's why I go through the fundamentals of my book one-on-one. Then when we start doing the be, do, have, if a person, let's say, is always broke and going paycheck to paycheck and or doing whatever, then we're gonna, when it's time to work together to manifest our more perfect life, we're gonna put our attention on what the be is. What be is creating decisions and doing this is that are responsible for creating this undesirable have. So instead of put our attention on have, I'm broke, I'm sick all the time, I'm that's putting the attention and the energy, that's just going to create more of the same. We want to put our attention on the cause, because be is cause, have is effect. So we got to put our attention on cause. What are we doing and not doing that's creating all these doingnesses and decisions that's resulting in this undesirable situation in our life? So the tip I tell people is don't put your attention on your physical situation. You got to put your attention on your thoughts and your beliefs, and then things can start manifesting. Now, that said, and this is not me trying to just drum up work, whether you work with me or somebody else,
Right.
it's hard to do what I just said by oneself. Therefore, almost everybody who's successful, like I said, even though some people may have not hired a mentor, they have a mentor, whether it's their parents, their best friend, or like Michael Jordan, the basket player, was Phil Jackson. Everybody, in one way or another, usually has somebody that inspires and helps and coaches them and gives them advice. So, first of all, my answer to your question is put your attention on your thoughts and your beliefs. That's step one to change your reality. Step two is I would highly recommend uh, finding a mentor. And I'm very available if they want to use me because I'm an expert in this area and I help people on a daily basis assess their life, assess their undesirable situations, and then go through the book and its fundamentals. I mean, even if a person's broken, they can't afford me. Usually, people can buy an ebook for $4.95 on their own. And the first step would be to read that book and start putting the attention on their thoughts, which the book helps one do. And then at a later point, contact me and I'll help them.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, do you incorporate your music anyway in your practices?
Well, my whole life I was a musician and I was unknowingly, and don't ask me why, was blessed with my inner, being aware of my inner power. Like I said, when I was 3 years old. So my inner voice and my inner power, which later on I realized was the invisible architect, this intelligent energy, is what I used to help create my very successful music career. So I still apply those same principles in my life. So I'm about to write a new record with one of my bands. And so I use these manifestation techniques, the be, do, have formula, to create anything I want to create constantly on a daily basis. So my music is still secondary to the invisible architect, which is the creator of all. So if the creator of all can create anything, then if I interact with it correctly, it can help me create what I want to create. So my music is a harmonic of that creator. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. 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 So, how do you see? Well, actually, let's do this. What challenges do you face in translating your personal experiences into a self-help methodology?
What challenges is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Well, when I first got the idea from the invisible architect, and I didn't have its name then, this inner voice, uh, and it said, I want you to pay it forward and write down how you interact with me. I was going, well, geez, I don't even know. I just sort of do it naturally. So I had to kind of, through the process of induction and logic, figure out how I operated and start writing it down. And so it took me about a year and a half to organize the whole concept of what I was doing. And then when I edited it down, uh, I went, how is this going to go over with people? A jazz guy is sort of writing a spiritual growth manifestation book. Is that going to go over? Like, what gives me the right to do that? So I felt a little, I'm not sure, weird about doing that. Like, if I was already uh, a well known author in that area, then okay, but I wasn't. So it took me a while to get the courage to put it out there. And the problem I had was more my own problem because once I put it out there, bang, it just went number one almost overnight. And I went, well, that makes sense because who am I writing about? I'm writing about the creator of all. And so it can do anything. So why was I worried about this book being out there and being accepted, since I was writing about the creator of all? It can do anything. So basically, since it wanted me to pay it forward, I just let it do its thing. Uh, and I still to this day do that. I barely promote and market at all. I just do podcast guest appearances, and people contact me somehow through the internet. And it's just amazing how it's taking a life of its own. And I realize that the reason it's doing that is because the creator of all, the invisible architect, wants this particular message, which isn't my message. I feel like I'm a channeler to get out there, because in case you haven't looked around, I'm sure you have, the world is kind of like a ghetto. And my favorite phrase, the whole world is between the wars and the corruption and the evil and everything that's going on, and people struggling to make a living. And we need to raise the frequency of planet Earth. And when I say raise the frequency, I mean raise the energy level of each human being one on one. Because if every human being's frequency level gets higher and higher, and they become more and more ethical and more service oriented, then the planet one by one becomes better and better and better and better. So I realized that when I got picked, chosen, whatever you want to do, to write this book and pay it forward, that the architect wanted for me to help on a one-on-one basis people raise their frequency so they can become more ethical and service oriented. And through that methodology, we can help. I hate to use the stupid worn out phrase, save the planet, but I think this planet needs saving in some way, shape. So if I can add to that in any way possible through my music, I inspire people, make them feel good. And then more importantly, through this methodology of the Be Do Have manifestation formula and showing people how to hook up with this intelligent energy source, then I think I'm doing a good deed.
Right. So let's see. So what inspired your mantra, spread the word, and how do you hope it impacts others?
Well, it's like I said, I wasn't at all interested or considering spreading the word. Once I got the sort of order, was sort of like an order. I woke up one day and with that voice going, "Hey, you need to write a book." And I kind of went, "Wait a minute, I've already written many successful music books." No, you need to write a book about your interactions with me. And I went, "Well, I don't know how to do that." And I had this conversation. I protested for about 3 months, and eventually it sort of was beating me up. So I sort of was almost felt like I was taking dictation and looking at my experiences and writing down what the invisible architect wanted me to write down. And I just was organizing it. And then, like I said, I thought I was done. All right, good, I did it. And it's become a bestseller. I've done my good deed. Let me go back to jazz and playing music. And it was kind of like, no, you're not getting off so easy. And I said, what do you mean? And next thing you know, I'm getting these emails. Hey, do you do one-on-one mentoring? Hey, could you help me with this? Could you? And I started answering them. And then I realized that, oh, you want me to go a little further here. Because I wasn't trying to become a Tony Robbins or a Eckhart Tolle or a Deepak Chopra or any of that kind of stuff. That wasn't in my blood, I didn't think. But as more and more people started contacting me, I realized that, oh, I think I have a duty and a responsibility. I can't just let this book go do its thing by itself. So then I started doing it, and I did it initially for free with a few of my friends, just because I was trying to pilot the whole thing. Okay, how am I going to convert this book into a one-on-one mentoring program? So I had to sort of, get the kinks out of it. And one for one, the people I was working with were just blown out of their minds and going, "John, this is amazing." And I went, whoa, I think I really got something here. So that helped me organize everything. And then I just put a website together that I call my mentor. My normal author site is just johnnovelloauthor.com. But then my mentor site is a specifically different site, go.johnnovelloauthor.com/register. So either way, they can get to me. And then people started contacting me, and I started doing it. Now, I don't want to hire 1,000 coaches like a Tony Robinson and become a billionaire. That's not my thing. I make enough money as a musician. So I only take on a couple people a month. And I'm very fussy who I take on. I want somebody who really wants to improve their life and has a service-oriented mindset. And that's what that first initial free consultation is, to see if we're a good fit, see if they like me, and see if I like them. And then I work with them one-on-one. So I only take a couple people a month and work with them.
Okay. So is there anything, anything in particular that you want to share with the audience before we wrap things up?
Well, I don't want to step on people's beliefs, so I won't. But I believe that each of us is a unique spiritual being with its own unique energy signature. And I believe all of us have greatness inside of us. And we all have desires that we want to achieve that will make us not only happy, but help other people. And remember the movie Groundhog Day? Was it Bill Murray, who was a narcissistic reporter in a small town, Punxsutawney, and nobody liked him. And if you watch the movie Groundhog Day, all of a sudden his days started repeating at midnight every night. And they kept repeating and repeating until he became a better person. So I believe we have a chance in a lifetime to spiritually grow and be of service to others and go after our dreams. And no matter how thwarted those dreams are and how many failures we have, it's in all of us to be great if we can figure out how to interact with the invisible architect, invite it into our lives, and go after our dreams. So that was the whole purpose of why I sort of was ordered to write the book. So now when people ask me, I met somebody on the plane the other day, and we were just talking. They said, "What do you do for a living?" Normally I'd say I'm a jazz pianist. And it was funny, what came out of my mouth I didn't even expect. The guy said that he was an insurance agent. And I said, "Well, I like music and I do music." I said, "But I specialize in helping people create a perfect life." And then when it came out of my mouth, I thought, "Oh my God, you're going to look like an idiot, a perfect life." And he all of a sudden he stopped and he went, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm a one-on-one mentor, best-selling author, and I help people create their perfect life." He goes, "Man, I never heard that before. Wow, that's interesting. Do you have a card?" And I said, "Yeah." Now, if I would have said, "I'm a jazz pianist," he probably would have went, "Oh yeah, well that's really cool," or he played music. I don't think it would have went any further. He may have asked me who I play with or something like that. But although music is very spiritual and entertaining, everybody has a goal to create a more perfect life, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. They really do. And if they fail too much, they get apathetic. And some people even go down the dark side, right? That's why Star Wars was so popular, because it talked about Jedi Knights and the dark side. When people start getting corrupt and failed, they can go down the dark side. So we all have in us greatness waiting to be tapped. And I think sometimes we need help doing that. And so now my whole new mantra is if somebody asks me what I do, I don't even say the jazz thing. I let them find that out. I says, I do one-on-one mentoring. I help people achieve a perfect life. And it's really fun to watch their eyeballs go, "What do you mean?" Because the word perfect life was not in my secondary title. The original title was The Invisible Architect, How to Create a Better Life. I thought that was good. How to create a better life. That's realistic. And the architect kind of beat me up and said, no. You're limiting my power. I'm way more than creating a better life. I'm all knowing. I'm all perfect. I'm all loving. Blah, blah, blah. So you need to change that title to how to create a perfect life from within, because as within, so without. I live within. The kingdom of God is from within. So I changed the title. And once I changed the title, I ended up finishing the book. So now that's my main mantra. That's what I do for a living. I help people create their perfect life. And if they like my music on the side, to me, the jazz thing, even though it's been my career, that's my hobby now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's crazy how things change, but hey, um, obviously you're changing people's life, more now than you were with just being a musician. Even though music kind of talks to the soul a little bit, and it makes you achieve whatever feeling you're looking for. It makes you calm down per se, or whatever the case may be. So, but it's definitely good to see you helping people create their perfect life, and for people to see that is possible. So,
Exactly. Music inspired. Somebody goes to a concert, they may get blown away and come back and say, "Oh man, that guy was incredible," and that may feel good for an hour, 2 hours, maybe it lasts a day or two. They're high on the concert, but then they go back to their life, whatever that was.
right.
But now, uh, for people that are ready for a change, because you got to be at need of change. If a person's not at I want to grow, obviously I can't work with them. Uh, but I think most people do want to grow and most people do want to change. So it's much more rewarding for me to work with somebody one on one, and they tell me, and I see that change because now they go out into society and they're a better person. And so my helping one person can actually affect many, many, many lives.
Oh yeah, yeah, I would agree. I would agree. So, I definitely want to tell you that I appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on and talk and have a conversation with me and talk with the audience about, about ways that they can potentially create their better life.
Exactly. You're
Um,
welcome. It's my pleasure. I love doing this.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem. So, everybody that's watching, you guys can go to John's website and everything. All the information will be in the description. You guys go check it out. Go support his book. Um, Go have a consultation with him and see how you can achieve your perfect. But thank you all for watching. You guys have just watched another episode of All in All with Alex, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
Peace. You are great. Ciao.